Tayo ka.
Good morning, Kong. And the panel. Kong, there is ang tanong lang, bakit nuclear ang napili mo? Why nuclear? In the Philippines, we have a lot of volcanoes for geothermal energy and waterfalls for hydro and also wind energy. Can you please enlighten us or educate us? Bakit ito yung napili ninyo, ang nuclear energy?
Sa maiksing sagot, no? Pwede mong bilangin yung available choices sa isang kamay. No? And isa lang ang merong katangian na siya ay likas na mura dahil sa energy density ng uranium. No? Likas na malinis, ngunit likas din na naaasahan. Yung po ang kombinasyon ng katangian kung bakit naiiba ang nuclear. Wala nang ibang ganong klaseng energy source. Tignan niyo po yan, ilang milyong beses mas energy dense ang uranium compared sa lahat ng fossil fuel po dyan. So, ang 26 na ganitong fuel assembly ay katumbas ng 50 barko na coal na kapag natigil ang delivery sa ating brown out na po tayo. Pero yung nuclear assembly po, the moment na kinarga mo sa nuclear plant, 18 buwan aandar yung nuclear plant mo, nandun yung inventaryo ng fuel sa loob po ng reactor. Unlike po yung coal and gas, it's just-in-time fuel because the value is so great that you cannot afford to have inventory of the fuel. Kailangan dire-diretso ang delivery. Pag singil mo, bayad ka na kaagad para makapag-deliver pa ulit. Pag singil mo, bayad ulit kaagad. Ganun po, hand to mouth, di ba? Not so nuclear. Ngayon, nasabi ko na ito kanina, yung wind and solar po ay intermittent. Meron po such a thing as tahimik na gabi kung saan zero ang lalabas sa wind and solar mo. Meron din tahimik na araw na makulimlim na bawas ang solar mo at walang hangin. Kung minsan po ilang linggo na walang hangin. So, namuhunan ka na ng solar at wind, mamumuhunan ka pa sa gas. Question next. Pag may hangin at araw na matindi, todo-todo po yun. Itetenga mo itong gas mo ngayon. Hindi mo naman pwedeng patayin kasi kailangan warm siya para pag nawala yung araw o hangin, pwede mong saluin itong gas mo. Sino ang magbabayad? Pag tinitenga mo ito, tuloy-tuloy ang konsumo kahit konti, tuloy-tuloy ang sweldo ng trabahador niya kahit konti lang ang lumalabas. Di nagmamahal. Unang-unang doble na po ang puhunan. Pangalawa, lumalaki po ang gastos. So, paano naging mura yung solar and wind? Ngayon doon sa geothermal, kung yan ay mura talaga, wala nang nagtayo ng ibang klaseng planta. 37 years na po ang kanilang chance. Ang akala kasi ng tao, isang butas, ilang megawatts na, hundreds of megawatts. Isang butas, kung minsan wala pang 1 megawatt. So kung 1,000 megawatts ang ating pinag-uusapan, 1,000 butas po yun. Gano'n po kalaking field po yan. Puputulin mo ang gubat, gagawa ka ng kalsada, lalagyan mo ng linya, In fact, yung emission po niya, nabubulong po ang yero ng mga barangay na nakatabi. Kaya may budget po si sino ba, PNOC pa, yung nagpapaandar ng geothermal. Napalitan po mga bubong every 2 years dahil sulfuric acid eh. Hindi mo hinihingan ng tao yan.
National grid.
Kaya pollution problem din, no? It's not clean. Eh namimili ng lugar. Hindi mo pwede i-construct malapit kung saan gagamitin yung kuryente. Which nuclear plant you can. You can locate it near where the load is going to be. So these are the differences. Ang nuclear lang ang may sama-samang katangian kaya naiiba siya ng todo-todo. It's a unique energy source. That's the big difference. It's the source. Ang tawag nila sa gas, transition fuel. Ang tawag ko sa nuclear, destination fuel. Doon tayo dapat papunta. Bakit pa tayo dadaan sa transition kung pwede na tayong dumiretso sa destination? Eh, maligoy-ligoy po tayo.
I just want to mention a few aspects of some of the energy sources you mentioned that people don't talk about much. Geothermal is very interesting, and I think a lot of people like the sound because, especially in a volcanic country, it's almost like free energy coming up from the earth, right? Well, actually, the truth is that there's much less energy coming up from the earth than people think. I mean, solar energy has its issues, but there's many times more solar energy coming down than heat energy going up. It means that there's a surprising aspect of geothermal people don't realize, which is that to have a lot of power come out of geothermal, you actually start freezing the rock, you cool down the rock because you take out the heat, and over time, most geothermal plants start to run lower and lower and lower in power just because they're running out of heat. They would need to stop operations for maybe 5 years, 10 years, 20 years to let the heat come back up from the earth. It's less problem near volcanoes, but near volcanoes you have other problems that can make it difficult to operate plants. Right, so dissolved gases and various things. Now, there's a lot of companies working on advanced geothermal, and it will take a lot of innovations from, say, the oil and gas industry, but you still need great areas of land, maybe not on the surface, but you need to collect geothermal over a huge area because the energy is not very big. Another thing on solar, people may think that a hot country will have good solar. Not necessarily. In my country, where we have deserts, is good for solar. The problem is when you have a hot country on the water, your solar output is not so good like what you might think. In fact, it's sometimes better to be a much further northern country with less heat and less sunlight in the year, but much less moisture in the air, because that can strongly reduce your collection of solar energy. Here's another thing. Nuclear is maybe unusual among energy sources is that over time, as reactors get older and older, their uptime, their output seems to get better and better and better and better. In other words, some things age and they start to break and crack and get worse. Nuclear is the opposite. It ages almost like in reverse, where over time it gets stronger and stronger as we get better at operating the plant. And also there's something interesting, I don't think you've heard this, Mark, but there are companies working on parts that go in existing nuclear plants like yours that can increase the output by 10, 15%, some people even say 20% for only maybe $100 million or something. So you could make the NPP provide for another couple 100,000 people with just changing out a few of the parts inside the plant. This is an astonishing improvement that nuclear can have over time.
Yes.
I just talked to a solar developer in Japan yesterday, and he told me that last month his IPP had to curtail 50% of the energy they generate. This is one thing that people don't realize about wind and solar, is that as their penetration in the grid increases, they have to waste a lot more energy because you can't save that power efficiently and cheaply for when it's not producing. So when the sun is shining, they have lots of panels. Guess what? All that curtailed energy is wasted. So this is something that the Philippines really have to pay attention to. Because like Japan, like Taiwan, it is an isolated grid. When that renewable energy is overproducing, there isn't that many places to send it to. So your solar farm might be very productive when it's low penetration in the grid. But as you get more and more solar farms, more and more wind farms, they're going to cannibalize each other. So this is why it's very important that, I'm not against wind and solar. I mean, I work in wind. I'm telling you that there needs to be a mix, not one source of energy can predominate if it's intermittent.
Yes, let me add to what Angelica said. Storage, we just so casually say, oh, we'll just put batteries. Do you know that just 20 hours worth of batteries is already double the investment of brand new nuclear plants? Just 20 hours. And batteries generate nothing. For you to be able to charge your 20 hours of batteries with solar, you need to overbuild the solar 6.7 times. Why 6.7? 15% capacity factor times 6.7 is 100%. So you need to overbuild your solar 6.7 times, 670%. And the investment in the batteries are already twice as much as you would invest in nuclear. And you only have 20 hours. What if it's the monsoon? And there's sunod-sunod na araw na walang makulimlim. O di short ka pa rin. So, alam nyo, ang malungkot is that ginagamit po ang media ng oil companies to further their agenda. What is the agenda? The agenda is to use wind and solar as the Trojan horse to get into gas. And that is the business, gas. And that's not going to help Filipinos. That's going to make us poor. And you need to wake up to that, media. Yun ang malungkot. Yun ang tragedy dito. No? Namamanipula ang opinion ng publiko and kulang po ang facts na kinakalat po ninyo.
That's why we are here, sir.
Yes.
To hear you. And,
Thank you.
sir, last question pala. Sakaling mapasa itong House Bill 8118
Yes.
sa namaraan sa Senado, can you tell us how much is the total cost? Estimated lang po
Cost of what?
para sa project na ito, total.
Well, there's the half centavo universal charge that I mentioned. That would be around 500 million a year. But let's put it in perspective. We're paying over 40 centavos of universal charge for various reasons. We're only asking a half centavo so that our electricity in the future might be many pesos per kilowatt hour cheaper. The target, the aspiration is half price electricity. Half price.
What I mean kong is the total cost of this project. Pag mag-start
Which
na ito,
project?
itanim na itong mga ito.
Which one?
PNPP.
O
PNPP.
Wala pong cost kasi bawal sa gobyerno maglagay ng pera dyan. That will be a private or a foreign government funded project. It's going to be free. The ERC will determine the selling price so that the investor can recover his money. Ito na lang ang tignan nyo, no? PNPP 1 can produce 5 billion kilowatt hours a year. According to the EIA, the operating and maintenance cost of the US fleet, average, so may mahal dyan, may mura, okay? Is 1 peso and 30 centavos per kilowatt hour. 1 peso and 30 centavos. That includes fuel. That includes the 6 centavos end-of-life decommissioning trust. That includes the 6 centavos, another 6 centavos, nuclear waste disposition trust. That includes 2 centavos of regulatory fee. So, lahat po ng costing nyo, nandun na, 1 peso and 30 centavos. Lagyan po natin ng 2 piso. No? So, 10 billion pesos a year in capital recovery cost and profit. No? So, that's 10 billion pesos a year times 20 years. Let's say, yun ang ROI period niya. So, magkano na po yun? That is 200 billion. That's worth more than the BNPP. So, 3 pesos 30 centavos lang yun. May capital recovery ka na, meron ka ng operating and maintenance, hindi pa maniwala, napakamura. So, after that, you have 60 years left of very, very cheap operation. Kasi ROI ka na bayad na. Kaya ang mga nuclear plant, ang Kori-2 sa Korea na kapatid nitong ating PNPP paid for itself after 6 years of operation. Siya ang tumulong na i-build ng Korea ang kanilang ngayon ay 25 running units na nuclear fleet. Right? Doon sa kita noon, rinolyo po nila. Rinolyo, nanganak. Ngayon, ang dami na nilang nuclear plant. And they are exporting nuclear plant. Kasabay lang po natin sila. So, yun po.
So in my country, in America, nuclear plants tend to pay maybe anywhere from $10 to $40 million USD each year in property taxes. That is not income tax, that is property tax to the local area just for being there and being such a valuable piece of property. Look, this is an amount that would by itself pay for your regulator each year just in the property tax charge alone at American nuclear plants. American nuclear plants tend to make large areas around them of very rich middle-class people. It doesn't make billionaires, it makes individual people, even with only a high school degree, have enough money for a big house, a big family, wife can stay at home if they want, they get a car. In other words, the most accurate part of the American comic show, The Simpsons, is Homer Simpson having only a high school degree and having a good house, cars, whole family, because that's the reality at a nuclear plant. So although you would hope that you could have 37 years of BNPP already operating, paying taxes, setting up the regulator, you have to start somewhere. And if you get that regulator, that independent regulator set up, that becomes your ticket to all the wealth that comes from a nuclear plant. And again, you only import a little bit of the value of that fuel. Import is very small. Almost all of the money paid to operate the nuclear plant goes to your workers and goes to tax base in your country. So it's like a gold mine that never runs out. Like the gold keeps coming up.
It's the goose that lays the golden egg.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know of any person who's really rich out there from making nuclear plants. Instead, it makes hundreds of thousands of moderately wealthy middle-class families in the areas all around the nuclear plant, and it allows national grids to offer cheap electricity to attract major international companies to visit. So that's, I think, one view into the local economics of nuclear.
Can I? Okay.
Ako po yung nagtatrabaho sa advertising. So kung meron pong, palagi po namin sinasabi, what's the one thing that you want people to know? So sa usapan po natin ngayon, kung meron pong one thing, pag uwi ninyo at pagsulat nyo ng inyong mga istorya, ang one thing po ay magiging mura ang ating kuryente, aayos, aalwan ang buhay ng mga Pilipino. So yun po, what is the one thing? Murang kuryente, maayos, aalwan ang buhay nating mga Pilipino. Homer?
Yes, I'd just like to comment because Mark mentioned Homer Simpson. So, you see the fuel assembly behind us. 20 people cannot lift that. Sa bigat po niyan. That's almost a ton. 1,000 kilos. Right? So, paano nalagay sa bulsa ni Homer Simpson yung fuel assembly tapos nalaglag doon sa bahay niya, di ba? Kung manonood po kayo ng Homer Simpson. Ang problema po, ang hilig po natin sa joke, tayo mga Pilipino, kultura natin puro tayong joke, no? So, pati itong seryosong bagay na makakasolve po ng ating mga problema, ginawa natin joke. Nakalimutan natin joke pala yun. The joke is on us. Because 37 years tayo, dumaan sa ilang krisis ng energy, ng kuryente, sobrang mahal, iniwasan tayo bilang investment destination, nagtatawanan tayo. Mali po. Ito ang paraan para makaahon po tayo sa sitwasyon na gano'n. Sana po, baguhin po natin ang ating paradigm.